So what is up, guys? You got your boy Stingren here today, and today we're back with a Project Triangle strategy demo character tier list. Now, of course, this is only referencing the first few characters that do appear in the game's story, up into Chapter 3, Part 3, where you take on a differentiating path. I did take on the different path where you go to Aspharos first. But of course, that is going to be a different discussion for a different day. So what we're going to do is we're going to break down every single character, kind of talk about their strengths and weaknesses, and ultimately rank where I would put these characters in a type of content in terms of my personal experience with them in the demo. There's a few things I want to get off my chest before starting this tier list. As always, this is my opinion. Please do not say that one character is better than the other because you humbly disagree. Of course, all discussions are welcomed, but at the same time, do not try to say that, this is the worst tier list ever because insert characters should be at the top while others are not at the top, of my personal opinion. And that's really just what I'm going about that. I just really don't want anybody to just kind of start any hostile arguments. Of course, I do want to hear your own thoughts. Who do you think is good? Who do you think it's bad? Who's your favorite character so far? And of course, we'll get into our own little discussions within this very channel. Another thing is I will be streaming the full game of Project Triangle Strategy starting, I believe, Saturday. If not Saturday, possibly Friday, depending on when I get off work at twitch.tv/jstingren. We play the game from full to end, and then we'll be able to struggle in it like that because I'm a terrible SRPG player. So it should be a lot of fun to see me get absolutely shafted in a lot of positional setups. But of course, a game is all about fun, and that's what we're going to have. But without further ado, let's get right into it and let's talk about our first character in this list. So our first character, of course, is Sarano. Sarano, of course, is our leading man, our big leading protagonist. And of course, where am I going to put Sarano before I even get started? Sarano is pretty strong in the beginning of the game. He does hit the hardest out of just about everyone in terms of physical attackers that we currently have access to, so I would definitely say that is a good option. He also has a really good skill that he unlocks fairly early in called Delay Strike. This basically makes enemies go a little bit later than what they anticipated, which is really nice for potentially saving someone or just rent like a big boss to go just a little bit later. Of course, it's not anything game breaking, but it is nice for just potential options of saving or potential options of delaying an action, so that way you can maybe position yourself a little bit better for the target enemy. So I do think that is a good option. He also does have a he does have a built-in counter built into his kit that you can unlock just before the cap, which is level 5. And the built-in counter is really good because at the end of the day, it is extra chip damage, which is, something that you can actually viable for. In terms of his own stats, pretty good stats out the gate. So I'm going to say that Sarano is definitely a top tier character because he has great DPS, he has a lot of open options, he has delay, and he does have a counter, which is very, very important. That is going to be our good friend, who is going to be Benedict the Tactician. Now, I did just have to pause the video there, so sorry about that. But anyway, it's going to be Benedict the Tactician, and Benedict is a kind of buffer type character that proceeds to go to different types of buffs for your party members. A lot of his buffs are single target, so please be wary of that. But for what it's worth, buffing is pretty decent in the game because, again, extra damage is always essential. Especially when to pass it up to Sarano, especially when to pass it up to someone like Anna or anyone like that, or Frederica even. So there's options for him, of course, but in terms of overall usefulness, it's not the greatest thing in the world. It's not the most needed thing, so I will say he's probably a meh for right now. Of course, we have to see what he gets like skill 2, skill 3, and then see what kind of weapon combinations we can build him up with to make him really good. But there's that. Next up is going to be Frederica, which joins you just before the prologue. She's one of the first people you get in the game, but she's of course your bride to be if you played the demo, so of course you get her. But anyway, Frederica is great. She is their game's first real mage. She has great crowd control. This is one of the good things that makes Frederica stand out very early game, because a lot of multiple enemies tend to gang up on you. There's a lot of things about revolving around backstrikes and everything, so Frederica is definitely a good unit to use to tend to just diffuse a lot of that situation. Of course, she does struggle from mage problems, which means she has the lowest HP out of most people. That does tie in with another character that we will be talking about not too far from her. But in terms of her own DPS, fantastic. In terms of her own usability, great. Crowd control, she does get a type specific shield called Flame Shield, which she can actively use to reduce fire based attacks. Now of course, since there wasn't anything like that in the demo, of course that will probably play a bit of a more niche role coming to later, but in terms of overall DPS, fantastic. So I will say she is definitely a top tier unit. Next up is going to be Gila. Gila is your first healer in the game. She's your first healer, but a lot of what Gila has to offer is just healing. That's it. She's a healer, and that's it. Her DPS, not very good. Her movement, not very high. It's a lot of things about Gila that she needs. Like for a healer, I would love a good speedy healer, so that way I can kind of rush over to my allies if they're too far and drag them to where I got doubled up on or something, and I can't get to them in time for that to pop an item. Then that would be a great thing for Gila, but she's not very fast, which it's a problem. So to be honest, I mean, while I do love the fact that she's a healer, and a healer is always welcome because this means your DPSs can go a little bit more aggressive without having to rely on using an item. She does have a passive that also boosts healing if your allies are at a low amount of HP, which means you can get them back up a little bit better as opposed to using her as a raw healer. And her skills are a 1 gauge use, which means she can spam her heals pretty consistently without running out of her her uses. So it's but I'm gonna say she's kind of meh for right now. In terms of what I got from Gila, I wasn't too impressed. Of course that can change later on. Next up is Roland. Roland is your first infantry unit who has a horse. Now, the good thing about Roland is that his movement options are very good, and his positional is very good. The reason why Roland makes for such a very good positional unit because a lot of his skills happen to deal with positions. This one skill he does unlock, which allows him to move 3 spaces forward to hit all enemies in those adjacent spaces. So that's a really cool way for him to potentially get out of some danger if he's able just to maybe snipe an enemy and then kind of clear out a row. That way you can get some good chip. Another good thing that you can do with this is basically position yourself out of danger with it, because, well, if you do the skill, you push yourself far enough to the back to where you're not going to get tripled instead of maybe just getting doubled, which is better survival. Of course, it still means you take damage, or you can even slide out of just taking damage in general while also hitting something, which is decent. You know, good mobility, good decent options. One of his first skills he gets is Double Lance, which hits just about as hard as Sarano, which is pretty decent as well for, I believe it's 1 gauge use. But of course, it requires him to be effectively targeting the enemy. So there's that. So for that, I'm going to say that Roland is a pretty good character in this regard. Anna, I'm going to say Anna is, well, she's broken. She's kind of broken. Now, the one thing that really makes Anna broken is not by her own merit. One, she's super fast. That's one good thing about Anna, is she's fast, which means she can be able to zip around the field a little bit better. And she has a very amazing passive. I know very amazing is just not 2 set of words you should use together. It's kind of cringe, but it's amazing. Okay, it's so good because she has a skill called Act Twice, and this is unlocked innate. So what this does is it allows her to target and attack 2 times instead of just 1. So if you hit something and you do like a poison or something, and that means you can target again, which is just insane because that's quick damage you can rack up. You can chain attacks this way to get more criticals for Anna. You can do a lot of things with this in this own setup, which is what makes her stand out a lot. She is great in this game. I would say she even technically can outdamage Sarano to some degree because of her ability to attack twice, which again is valued very well. So I'm gonna say there's that. Next up is going to be our hawk friend Huette. I'm gonna say Huette's actually pretty decent. I'm gonna say it outright. The one thing I do love is her mobility options. It does suck that she, like Roland, has a type specific weakness to her own weapon. I never talk about this about Roland because I didn't see too many spear units in the demo. But Bo, I feel like Bo, even like, you know, later on when we get the full game, like tomorrow, I think Bo will be more common, which will be bad for her. But she does have an advantage of being in the air. Well, not really in air, but having high places to be where she can actually snipe off enemies from a distance to be in a safe spot. The good thing about Huette is that she can manipulate herself to be in safe zones quite consistently while sniping. She also does specialize in debuffs. She can do immobilization and she can do blindness from what we got from in the demo. Now this is really good that she has immobilization, because the fact that she can immobilize targets, this means that, you know, you could potentially stop enemies from ganging up on your potential partners. You can blind targets to make them miss, which means they take less damage. There's a lot of good open option for her. I will say that she is definitely going to be a decent pick coming into the team. So next up is going to be Erador, the tank of the party. So I will say Erador is good for attracting aggro because he comes with a skill out of the gate, which allows him to draw enemies to him. This is really good because this basically means that you can just go ahead and just force all that aggro on him. He does have a pretty high base HP. I think he gets over 100 just at level 5, which is pretty decent. All you really need to do is just for him to tank. His own DPS is it's alright. It's not nothing, you know, there's nothing too great, but he does have a lot of ways to protect himself. He does also have a move that prevents him from getting crits from the back, which is also really good from him doing provokes, because when you're provoking enemies, more than likely you're going to get targeted in the back, and that's not a place you want to get hit. But that's really just it. But other than that, he's not bad. He's not a bad tank. He has very healthy defenses, and he's pretty, you know, strong outright. So I will say he's definitely in the good tier. Next up is going to be Rudolph. Rudolph is what you get from joining the Asphalt side of the story. I do think you get a different ally if you go to the different side, but he is a hunter who specializes in traps and ranged damage. Now, similar to Huette, he does use a bow, but he does not suffer from the same weakness of a bow element, bow weakness as she does, which is, you know, options. The one thing that you get with him is the ability to set traps, and with traps, if the enemy steps on the tile, they take damage. This is good for baiting, because if you can bait the target to hit the trap, then that's definitely something that's going to work in your favor to get extra damage. This also is a really good lure strat with Sarano, because as I mentioned before, Sarano has a built-in counter. So, for example, you set a trap in front of Sarano, enemy tries to hit Sarano, then he gets countered with the trap damage going off as well. You can really rack up a good amount of damage, which is even wiping enemies or even just attacking you at a higher HP value. But it's kind of the only thing that really makes this strat work. I do think Rudolph is a little bit squishier than most units, even not as squishy as Frederica, but because he has decent HP and he has not too bad defenses. But I noticed that he finds himself getting killed in the mission that you get him in. But since there's no other missions that you use him in within the recruitment mission, he was in kind of a bad position to begin with, then maybe that's not the greatest assessment. But yeah, but for Rudolph, I wouldn't say he's bad. You know, trap damage is good. He has good range off his attacks. He's not as mobile as Huette, because Huette does have, you know, a flying bird. But I will say he is definitely going to be placed in the good tier. So that is going to be my overall tier list. I'm going to say that Sarano is definitely going to be top tier for physicals. I'm going to say Anna is like top tier for range. She's top tier. Frederick is top tier for mages currently in the game. I'm going to say that Huette is decent because of the sniping that she can do. It's the same thing with Rudolph, but I do think hers is a little bit more better because of the debuff she can do just against she's not able to get the kill. I'm going to say that Roland is good, specifically for the fact that he has good positionals. I'm gonna say that Eridor is good for aggro, and Rudolph is good for sniping off rural range, setting up some decent traps in good positions, potentially protecting a teammate from dying, because if they step on a trap, then they could die, type of thing. I'm gonna say that Benedict is meh because the buff spot are good. 3 turns is a lot. I'm just gonna say it's not the greatest. And Gila, since she doesn't do anything else besides heal, I would like to see more of her in the future when we get the full game. Of course, come tomorrow, which I cannot wait to buy this game because it is going to be a fantastic experience. I already love the game to pieces already. But that is going to be it, guys. What do you guys think about the characters in Project Triangle Strategy? Do you think this is a good tier list? Let me know in the comment section below. Peace.